and welcome to my channel where I make dishes inspired by some of my favorite video game characters. Today's dish is inspired by Tidus from the Final Fantasy X series. I adore Tidus as a character because he's one of the most realistic feeling protagonists of the Final Fantasy franchise. He's not the strongest, he's not the smartest, and he's not the most experienced, and for most of the game, he is as confused as we are as players. I've always loved how Tidus is kind of dorky and doesn't take himself too seriously. Even though he's a bit of a goofball, he's incredibly determined and will stop at nothing to help Yuna and his friends. You've gotta love his zany personality and high energy level throughout the game, and it doesn't take long for you as a player to start rooting for him. Tidus' relationship with Yuna is so sweet, his friendship with Wakka is fun, and his mentor-mentee-like relationship with Auron is also enjoyable to witness. His strained and complicated relationship with his father Jecht is also relatable and intriguing to see in a Final Fantasy game. At the end of the day, I love the levity and humor that Tidus brings to Final Fantasy X, and I think his personality fits right in perfectly through the story and with other characters of the party. Tidus is a fun character to make a dish for because I could see him not being very picky and loving all kinds of food. Whatever he would eat, I can see him scarfing down food just like he does when Riku finally gives him some grub, and when he's hungry, I can see him yelling, "I need food," like he does at the start of the game next to a campfire. When thinking of dishes for Tidus, I kept leaning towards island or Cajun flavors because of his tropical outfit and his time spent in Besaid. His high energy also reminds me a lot of the bold flavors and spices of Cajun cuisine, so I knew I wanted to go down this route. With all of that in mind, I felt like a shrimp boil would fit Tidus perfectly, especially since he could share with all of his Blitzball teammates or with the other party members. I could see Tidus feeling like dinners are incomplete though without some kind of dessert or sweet, so he'd love to chase the shrimp boil down with some delicious honey cornbread. So get your shrimp out of the freezer and into your frying pan for this scrumptious dish. Here's what you'll need to make your own. For the shrimp boil itself, you'll need 4 lemons, a yellow onion, 6 cloves of garlic, Old Bay seasoning, 1 pound of red potatoes, 4 ears of corn, 1 pound of kielbasa sausage, 2 pounds of large shrimp, unsalted butter, salt, black pepper, and parsley. For the honey cornbread, you'll need milk, honey, 2 large eggs, all-purpose flour, yellow cornmeal, granulated sugar, baking powder, salt, and salted butter. To start the process, you'll start making the cornbread. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and grab a 9x9 inch baking dish. Butter the baking dish and then set it to the side for later. You'll then grab a half cup or 1 stick of salted butter and melt it for later. Then let it cool to room temperature. Side note, I accidentally used unsalted butter instead of salted butter, but it turned out just fine. Next, in a small bowl, whisk together 3/4 cup of whole milk, a 1/3 cup of honey, and 2 large eggs until well mixed. Then, in a separate large mixing bowl, whisk together 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of yellow cornmeal, a half cup of granulated sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Once well integrated, you'll then add in the mix of milk and stir everything until just combined. You can then add in your room temperature melted butter and again mix, but be careful not to overmix. We can then pour the cornbread batter into our buttered baking dish and bake for around 30 to 40 minutes until the cornbread is set and a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. As your cornbread bakes, you'll get prep started for the shrimp boil. First, you'll peel and mince at least 6 cloves of garlic and add it to a medium bowl. Next, grab a yellow onion and slice it, then add to the same bowl. And the last ingredient we'll put into this bowl is some lemons. Grab your 4 lemons and quarter and de-seed all of them. Place 2 of these lemons into this bowl and save the other 2 lemons for later. You'll also grab 1 pound of red potatoes and medium chop them and set aside for later. You can also just use small red potatoes if you'd like. Grab 4 ears of corn and cut each into 4 pieces and again set aside. Lastly, grab your kielbasa sausage and cut into 1/2-inch slices and set aside. I used 2 pounds of shrimp that was already peeled and deveined, but if yours are not already, now's the time to devein and peel your shrimp. Phew! Prep is done. We'll fill a large pot with water and add in our bowl of garlic, onions, and lemons, as well as a 1/3 cup of Old Bay seasoning. Start heating this pot on high until it comes to a boil. As the water comes to a boil, add in your red potatoes and cook for about 10 to 12 minutes until the potatoes are just becoming fork tender. As you add each ingredient to the boil, try to be careful since the ingredients will likely cause the hot water to splash. We'll then add in the corn and sliced sausage and cook for another 5 to 6 minutes. While it cooks, we'll line a large baking sheet with aluminum foil. As this 5 to 6 minute timer goes off, we'll add our 2 pounds of shrimp into the pot and cook for 2 to 3 minutes until the shrimp is pink and cooked. Once the shrimp is cooked, we're able to drain the pot and then pour all of the delicious contents onto our lined baking sheet. Now, either during the cooking process or once it's finished, you'll add a 1/2 cup of unsalted butter to a bowl and melt it. Then add in a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, and 2 tablespoons of parsley. Stir everything together and then pour all over your shrimp boil. Mix everything so that everything is well coated in the butter, and then optionally toss with more parsley or Old Bay seasoning if desired. To serve, scoop onto a rimmed plate or shallow bowl with your remaining lemon slices. Serve alongside your honey cornbread and feel free to top the cornbread with additional honey or butter, then dig in. Shrimp boils are such a warming and comforting meal to enjoy. I always feel like making one will be too complex and take too much time and effort, but honestly, it's always really easy and tasty. I love the mix of flavors of the Old Bay seasoning, lemon juice, and butter, and all of the different textures and ingredients inside are delicious. The dish is full of bold flavors, but does not feel heavy at all to eat. Personally, eating just a shrimp boil by itself feels like there's something missing, and that's where the honey cornbread comes in perfectly. It has just the right amount of softness and sweetness to it, and it's so fluffy and complementary to the shrimp. Everything together is so perfect, and it's hard to not keep going back for more on your plate. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, I can see Tidus scarfing this dish down just like he does with Riku's food tray. I think this dish is so fun and energizing, just like Tidus is. And I think he would love sharing this with all of his friends of the party, and it would make him feel like he's surrounded by the family that he never really got to have growing up. It would fill Tidus with tons of energy to get out there and play blitzball or fight off Seymour again. I can see Yuna and Oren preparing this shrimp boil for the group, and Tidus would be bouncing around, trying to help as much as he can while not getting in the way. Tidus would make Yuna laugh by playing around with the ingredients, and Oren would just give him a look that would force him to become serious again and put down the food. Through their journey to take on Sin, Tidus has learned that he'll do anything for Yuna, so he cherishes every single moment with her, from the grand to the simple. The recipe card is in the video description if you'd like a more quick and concise version to give it a try. Like if you want a bite, subscribe for more geeky treats, and comment what foods Tidus reminds you of. Thanks for following along.